Time has come, we've had some fun.
It's time for the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast. Here with a load of laughs, info, and fun, it's Tony B, Dave B, and Timmy D.
Before I go alone. Don't ask me this and one more song. It ain't too costly, no, I ain't too cheap, so just relax. I'm on my knees.
Welcome to the Ship's Gonna Happen, episode number 96, David B. We are getting there, brother.
Almost to 100,
Almost. My name's Tony B, and alongside me, you heard him, David B. And Timmy D might be coming in here. We'll see. He's running a little late this morning. He's probably got daddy duty. Happily married now. We're going to congratulate Timmy D this morning. Today's special guest is Rich Hennessy from Bella's Bartok. He's lead guitarist. We're excited to have him on, and you've heard him before because they're in the opening of the show. And then we'll get into our topics. We have East Palestine, Ohio train derailment, and David B's got BP, British Petroleum, buys TA Travel Centers. Yeah. So you're listening to The Ship's Gonna Happen, number 96. The Ship's Gonna Happen are purely news-driven and do not express the views of any transportation provider or any business entity that uses a transportation provider. David B., why do we do it?
Transportainment.
The transportainment! Boom. You can catch us on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Google Podcast, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and our home website, www.shipsgonnahappen.com. Good morning, David B.
Good morning, producer Tony. It's a beautiful Saturday morning here in Indianapolis. It's that time of year where the sun is just hitting you right as you're driving through downtown, and that's painful to have that sun coming at and hit you square in the eye. We're getting to your time of the year, Tony B. Coming up on the spring, and then you're going to be mowing the yard real quick. And summertime's right around the corner where it's going to get too hot, blah, blah, blah.
I think you need it right now to cut.
It does look like
kind of shabby.
It does look like you can mow your yard right now. So this show, along with all of our other shows, is brought to you by The Great Divide, 743 East New York Street, downtown Indianapolis. Great place to go after a Ship's Gonna Happen week. Great place to go to unwind. Hear some great music, get a good meal, chat it up with the locals. It's just an awesome place to go, and we're proud to have them as a sponsor of the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast. Producer Tony, I am super excited today. We've got your Rich Hennessy from my favorite band, Bella's Bartok.
We've been trying to do this for a while,
we
right?
have been, and there's been some issues, travel. Rich has been traveling, and then we had some weather-related issues on our end, so we finally were able to get him on this morning, and super excited to have Rich Hennessy on the line.
Nice job, David.
Thank you.
Rich, are you there, sir?
Hey. Yeah, what's up, guys?
Rich Hennessy.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Can you hear us okay, sir?
Oh, yeah, loud and clear.
So Rich,
on.
So Rich, we're just going to start off this morning, and we're first going to kind of hit you with some questions on, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us where you grew up at, and, of what your upbringing was, and we'll lead into some other stuff. So kind of give us a little bit of background on you, if you don't mind, please.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm from central Massachusetts.
Okay.
I grew up in a tiny little town called Oakham, which is like half an hour north of Worcester. Like real small town. We had we had two stores, one of them's attached to a campground, no traffic lights, bunch of cattle farms and stuff. I have early childhood memories of hanging out at this farm owned by a Korean War veteran woman. You know what I mean? Like real small town shit. Grew up riding BMX and dirt bikes and stuff like that. Musical parents. My parents are both teachers, but my dad played guitar. My mom played violin and some guitar. Just grew up a real small town, surrounded by music and doing kind of hillbilly stuff,
Right. Yeah. So, you seem to be, in watching your Instagram stuff, and you seem to be kind of the jack of all trades. So growing up on that farm, I'm sure it had something to do with you learning to kind of fix things on your own, or kind of make it so you can kind of rig things the right way. Am I right in that
Oh,
assessment?
for sure. I mean, yeah, like I spent the first apartment I had actually outside of my parents didn't live on like a farm, but it was very rural. They had gardens and stuff. But my first apartment I had actually rented a house with these two guys that were my age. But one of their parents owned like a 1,000-acre dairy farm. So living with them, it was like those guys will do everything with like absolutely nothing. Like I've seen them rig together like some of the craziest machines or like, solutions to different farm problems. Um, and Also when I was living there, I was working at a machine shop, which is like our specialty was, rebuilding pumps for power plants, but also we did all sorts of different, production work. And it was just another environment where like, I remember like, one day on St. Patrick's Day, right? And I'm like 21 or 22 at the time. We were all thinking we're getting out at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm all ready to party with my friends. And, this pump rolls in on a truck at like 12:30 in the afternoon, and bosses are like, all right, we're not leaving until this thing's fully apart. And that's like, a good like 10 hours of work or something.
Wow.
So that like, on top of like kind of having, small town sort of limited resource kind of mindset. Then I'm hanging out with these guys that are just like, we have things to do and nothing's going to stop us. Like anything that comes up. And that was really hugely influential with that. So it kind of like gives you this confidence of like, okay, like if you have this mindset, like this is what I'm going to do and nothing's going to stop me. Like, where do I want to take that? And what do I want to do? And what am I going to like say, I want this and nothing's going to stop me. And, yeah, kind of just gave you this idea, like you can do whatever you set your mind to, which is something I heard from my folks growing up, which is, a really good thing to drill into your brain, I think.
Right.
Yeah. That mindset
so, yeah.
doesn't exist. That mindset doesn't exist anymore, Rich. I mean, I wish hopefully
Oh, man,
everybody
I wish.
listening. I
That
mean,
wasn't so
because
true, but yeah,
it's a good life lesson. There's nothing wrong with learning that stuff and having it be
Yeah.
and,
So,
and clearly that's a tool for you.
Yeah, I mean, I was playing when I got out of college. All my friends are going to be like park rangers and do like invasive weed, pest control and shit like that. And I'm sorry, I'm going to try really hard not to swear on this podcast.
That's all right.
No,
Hey,
you're
you
going
can.
ahead.
You can. It's X-rated.
And they're all going to do this stuff, and I'm like, I'm going to play the banjo. I'm going to play in a bluegrass band.
Mm-hmm.
And, after like 5 years of that, like, I had all sorts of friends out on Cape Cod and stuff. And one of my good friends out there is a street performer. He was living in this like condemned house. One summer I went back to Cape out in Provincetown, and this kid who at the time was like 19, he's like, oh yeah, I bought a sailboat. I live in a sailboat now.
Wow.
And I'm like, and he's kind of that same mindset. Like, you know what? I'm just going to figure out how to get what I'm after. And just as long as I'm, hard headed and smart about it, like we can pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
So here I was like, figuring out what to do. And this young kid's got this sailboat and he's already snowbirding down to Key West and back in the winter times, but he can't even go into the bar yet. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you know what? I want to do that now.
Yeah.
So he found me like $1,000 boat, and at that point you're just, you buy the thing and you're in it.
Mm-hmm.
So like, all right, well now I got to fix this up and make it really seaworthy. And
but you're on
spent my winter watching YouTube videos and learning stuff like that. It's like I've taken a lot of really wild turns in the past few years just based on that. Like, yeah, why not? Like, we can pull that off. Let's go for it.
Yeah, but you're on your second boat now, right? Or are you still on your first boat?
Yeah, that was wild. So I had my first boat was a 1977 Columbia 8.3 meter, which is a little 27-foot sailboat. $1,000 boat. Probably put about, I don't know, maybe I put about $4,000 into it over a year and a half. I worked on it a bunch in Cape Cod, sailed it down to Key West, got this whole community going down there, friends. Was telling a guy at a dinner one night about my boat and all the work and telling him, yeah, I want to sail to Cuba and Mexico and Guatemala and stuff. And he basically was like, I've got a boat that's been sitting unused for 14 years. He says the Cape Dory 28. And I was like, well, it's not much bigger, but that's a sweet boat. He goes, yeah, I'd love for someone like you to just adopt it. I'm like, Larry, like, I don't know if you heard me, but I'm already working on this other one. I don't have any money, you know? He's like, no. Like, I want somebody like you to take this and restore it and sail it and just give it the energy that it deserves. And I was like, no way. So I sailed my boat from Key West back up to Massachusetts, and then drove down to Annapolis,
Wow.
Maryland, and looked at this thing. I was like, well, you've never seen a free boat in this kind of condition ever in my life. You know, he was a retired Navy veteran, took really good care of his stuff, just didn't really have the energy or the time to keep going on it. So the boat that I put about $7,000 into, I sold for $5,000. Then I went down to Annapolis, spent a month in the boatyard in that thing, got it all ready, and then sailed that up to Massachusetts. And that's been a great boat. We sailed that down to Key West and back last year.
Yep.
Did a little bit of work to it, but I mean, that thing's rugged. We hit one of the worst storms I've ever hit in my life, knocked the boat right on its side. It was filling up with water.
Oh.
Like the thing's a tank.
Mm-hmm. Like, how far are
I
you
got
off the
a really good
coast?
free boat. Got a lot of luck in this adventure, honestly. I know a lot of people that, you know, kind of live in similar fashion of like, you know what, I want to do this and I'm going to go for it. Nothing's going to stop me. And I feel like I've had a lot of really good luck. I got to find some wood to knock on when I say this.
Right. Right. So
But,
has that been your biggest oh shit moment in the boat? Was this when this one flipped up on its side and
oh yeah,
I bet
it was actually pretty ironic. We left Key West. I have these two crew I took. So I always take on crew when I sail, you know, because I like to go offshore for like 3 days at a time usually. And just in order to be able to sleep, you know, take schedules where, you know, somebody will be up for 2 or 3 hours, then they take off and, you know, you switch out. And I picked up these two cats. Their names are Foxy and Strange. They're just transient, like old freight kids. They're rugged, really nice kids. One of them, Foxy, is like a singer-songwriter, actually a great musician. She goes by the Bandit Queen of Sorrows.
Okay.
But anyways, picked them up, was like, yeah, it's going to be fun. I showed them, we're about to leave Key West. I'm like, this is my storm sail. We watched the weather really closely, so we're definitely not going to use this. And it was like 48 hours after we left Key West. We're probably 10 miles off the coast of West Palm Beach. We saw the storm rolling in. And I was getting more nervous, and I'm putting up smaller and smaller sails, reefing down the main. And they're all howling at the storm, you know, like, and I get it. Like, if I was like on a hill on a farm and I saw a storm coming in, I would feel all like primal and like, you know, howling like a coyote or something at it. But I'm getting more and more scared. And eventually I'm like, guys, like, I get the excitement of the storm, but you got to realize, like, I'm the only one here that's done this before, and I'm the only scared person. So, like, think about it, you know? And, yeah, it got to the point where it was like these waves are getting up to, like, we're sailing to windward, so the storm was coming straight at us. And we're seeing these waves getting taller and taller, and they're in like the 7 to 9 foot range at this point. We got a storm jib and a double reef main. I'm like, all right, everybody hang out down below in the cabin. I've got a harness on, like I'm strapped into the boat. And Strange looks at me. He's like, dude, I got to come up and have a cigarette. And I look at him and I'm like, man, you're going to be up here. Hold the F on. Like, hold on tight. He comes up. Dude smokes like half a cigarette. And we look up to windward, like the direction we're sailing. And you can see the wind coming at us. You can see like this wall of weather just like coming right at us. It's like, you know, you usually can't see wind. It's wind. But you can see is like these huge waves underneath this wall I'm looking at coming right at us. They're just like flattened out. It's like the ocean's like flat, but it's just foam and spray. It looks like the edge of Niagara Falls or something, but just like as far to each side as you can see and just whipping straight at you. And he looks at me with these wide eyes and goes, what do we do? And I have just enough time to scream back, I don't know. And this wall of wind hits the boat. Dude, the sail sounded like tissue paper. And then Strange put it best. He says, felt like we lost an arm wrestling match with God. Because you hear the wind hit the sails, and then the boat just instantly on its side. Like, I was airborne for a second. My back landed on the railing on the edge of the boat.
Oh.
A solar panel was bolted to this railing, and it literally saved my life. Because I was like laying on this thing, water's rushing over my chest. the thing that I was leaning on, like where my back was now flat. Strange was standing up, holding a lifeline on the boat, looked at me, grabbed me by the chest harness, picked me up on my feet. So now I'm standing on something that used to be a backrest, holding onto a railing on the other side. And we're just looking, I'm looking at my feet and just watching water just pouring into the boat. I'm talking like coming over the sides, like into the cabin, like just filling the thing. It seriously looked like a scene out of Titanic. I've never seen so much water rushing into something before. And you just look down with that feeling of like, okay, I guess this is it. I think we're all going to die right now.
Yeah.
So Rich, how far are you off the coast at this time, do you think?
You know, we weren't far. We could see land from here because we were heading towards the West Palm Beach Inlet, Lake Worth Inlet. We were probably only like 3, 4, 5 miles offshore. But I mean, it was like in this sea state, you could die real fast out there.
Yeah.
Even being that close to shore, if we were all swimming, like,
right.
You know, it's like it'd be like trying to find a basketball in the ocean with 9-foot waves everywhere.
Right.
It was madness. But you get this feeling, and you just accepted it. You're like, I think this is it. Like maybe we'll cut the dinghy loose and try to float in that if this thing sinks. But it all happened so quick. You know, as soon as I had these thoughts, like that insane wind gust passed us.
So
and,
how do you?
The boat's got a huge lead fin on the bottom of it. So once the wind was done holding it down, the lead weight on the bottom kind of popped it back up.
Okay.
And water started draining out. The bilge pumps kicked on, and Strange looks at me and he goes, "Fuck yeah, dude!" Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, later on, I brought it up and found out he was just really excited that the boat came back up. But,
sure.
Holy crap!
Wow.
Scariest moment of my life. I've sailed over 7,000 miles in the past 2.5 years, and I'm more scared of the ocean now than I was a year ago because of that event.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was wild.
But
Hats off to that crew. Once the boat popped back up, the wind went back to just like 30, 40 mile an hour winds, which is insane. But,
right.
We sailed into West Palm, dropped anchor. Somebody threw up. But hats off to them, man. Like 2 days later, I was like, all right, like south winds coming back up. Like, we got to go. Got to catch this weather window. If you don't want to come, I totally understand. And they were both just like, no, let's go. I'm like, y'all have never been sailing. And we almost died the second day out. And the fact that you're ready to go, I mean, they sailed all the way back to Brooklyn with me. It's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, for sure. So
yeah, they're rough, man. Those old freight kids, they make good crew. They don't scare easy, and they're tough as nails.
Yeah, that's good. So one of the things watching you do this lifestyle, Rich, has got to be too. On the other end, it has to be so mind-clearingly calm when things are going well. Like I bet you get a good night sky out there and can take in some awesome night skies, and you could probably also just get some good tranquil times in your life where you could probably clear your head and just kind of enjoy life out on the water. Is that true? Or
oh my God, yeah, that's what I tell people. I tell them, like, when it's rough, it's really rough, but when it's nice out there, some of the most amazing times I've had in my life. Like so many just of the most mind-blowingly beautiful sunrises and sunsets. I've seen rocket launches from Canaveral that blew my mind.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, Rich.
That summer we had that full lunar eclipse. Remember that last summer?
Yep.
I was like 50 miles off the coast of somewhere in northern Florida, maybe just past Canaveral. But I was like 50 miles out to sea, and it's just this beautiful unobstructed view of a full moon just, radiating off the ocean, and then the whole eclipse. And I was on watch for the whole thing, so you're just sitting there, the autopilot's going, the wind's steady. You don't have to change anything, you could literally go down below and roll a spliff and get back up and keep watching it. I've had times where I woke up in the morning when someone else was on watch, and I woke up to the sound of dolphins one morning.
Wow.
And I was like, I've been sailing long enough. I know what that squeak is. So I yell up, I'm like, is there dolphins? And they go, yeah. And you hear the excitement in their voice. You run out of bed and there's just a pod of like 20 of them just playing in the waves on your bow, and like similar thing. Like wind's going fine, autopilot's running, everyone's kind of just watching, but nobody's really having to do any work. And yeah, you just wake up and you're like, wow, like we've got 20 new friends just hanging out, swimming around, playing in our wake. This is awesome.
Right. So do you normally
man.
do you normally have a crew, or you're normally by yourself, aren't you? Or
so I normally take a crew on like the longer passages. So like if I'm gonna sail to Key West, usually I like to leave around Halloween. That's like around the end of hurricane season. So usually by like September. Honestly, I've done it before just via Instagram, like put up on a story on my Instagram, like who wants to come sailing for a month?
Right.
So I've had a time where it was just me and one other guy, went from New York all the way to Savannah. And then I made a friend in Savannah, and then I actually got in touch with another homie and picked up 2 people from there. Last spring we had Foxy and Strange. One year my sister really wanted to come. She lives in Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
So she flew out to join the crew. And actually that was a fun crew. I was supposed to have a filmmaker come with me one time. Joe Salinas. He does amazing work. And we kind of actually just met through Instagram, the Provincetown Mass community, stuff like that. And he was going to come. And I was kind of counting on him all winter, but we didn't check in. So a month before leaving, I hit him up. I said, Joe, you still down to come? And kind of like, oh, I didn't hear from you. Like, I've got other plans now. And I'm like, kind of stressing about it at the bar. And this guy I barely know sitting to my right, he goes, I'll sail to Massachusetts with you. I'm like, yeah.
Wow.
He goes, yeah, I mean, I've been in Key West too long. I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And I like barely knew the guy.
Right.
But, I had him come out and help me work on the boat a couple of days, got to know him. And between he and my sister, they ended up being some of the best crew I've ever had.
Well, that's good.
But yeah, I prefer to do it with at least 2 other people. I have done some solo sailing. Like, for example, last spring, Foxy and Strange, they had to jump off in Brooklyn because they were running out of time. So I picked up a guy there and we went to Connecticut, but then I sailed from Connecticut to P-Town solo. But I mean, that's only like, I don't know, like a little over 100 miles I did on my own.
Right.
Which is a lot. It was nonstop. It was like a good 36 hours.
Wow.
I did fall asleep at some pretty inopportune times because I didn't take naps when I should have.
Right.
Yeah, solo sailing, I've done it. It's just so much more fun to like share the experience,
Sure.
And I've thought about like doing offshore adventures on my own. Like, just if you go, 50 miles offshore, you can definitely go to sleep for a few hours and not hit anything. But it's like, I've thought like, but then what do I do when I wake up and I see dolphins? Like, I don't have anybody else to share that with, you know what I mean? Or like sea turtles or like cool sunsets. Like, so yeah, I haven't done a whole lot of solo stuff. I've been thinking about it, but I'm not sure if I would enjoy it quite as much.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What's the furthest south you've ever sailed?
I've ever played?
Sailed when you've what's the furthest you've ever?
So far, just Key West.
Oh, okay.
I did have an opportunity to sail to. A buddy of mine went Cuba to Mexico to Honduras to Belize. And at the time, it was kind of unsure, like, what was going on with the band and stuff. So I almost jumped on that boat, but had to get back on the road. So we're going to have to save those adventures for a later date.
Do you need a dumb question? Do you need a passport to sail into international waters then?
Oh, no, that's not a dumb question. You don't need a passport until you're in the local waters of another country.
Okay.
So, like, I could sail, like most of the way to the Bahamas or Cuba or something like that, and then just stay, I don't know how far off, but you stay a certain distance away.
Like 3 to 5 miles.
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I think it is 3, actually.
I was in the military, so, yeah, I know that. I think I remember it's 3 to 5.
So, yeah, actually, during COVID, when, there were all the travel restrictions, there were some sailors that ended up getting, like, too close to the BVIs. They weren't even trying to go there. They just got too close. And they were slapped with, like, all these fines for, like, ignoring the travel ban or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I always keep a passport on the boat anyways, because, I mean, what the heck? Like, the Bahamas are only 100 miles from Miami, or 50 miles from Miami. Like,
Yeah.
You can very easily swing by another country if you had the time and the funds.
That's pretty cool.
Sure.
It's kind of cool, honestly. I'm very excited to go explore a lot of Central America in the future. I would love to sail across an ocean, but I'd prefer to do that in somebody else's boat first
Right.
before doing it on my own.
So when you sail, Rich, do you bring a guitar with you?
Oh yeah. I always got a guitar. I have like a tiny little travel guitar I got for really cheap. I always have my banjo in there. Little stuff like harmonicas, maybe some percussion stuff. I got a melodica, like one of those little like pianos you blow into.
Oh yeah, right.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, actually, Foxy, she brought a fiddle with her, and she brought
That's
her
cool.
guitar as well. So like, yeah, I've had times where like I stopped and needed parts for the boat and had no money at all, and just like make a sign that's one time I made a sign the shape of a sailboat and said like, I wrote like, need money for new standing rigging on it, like all the stuff that holds the mast up, and just set up with a guitar playing in front of a coffee shop like that, and did pretty good.
Man, that's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah,
So
gotta
Rich,
bring the
I
instruments.
also remember you seeing like you have your own little taxi service too. Do you still do that?
Oh, the pedicab thing?
Yeah, or whatever it's called. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a fun job. So
Yeah.
that wasn't something I owned.
Oh.
But in Provincetown, there's these two different companies that run the bikes, or trikes, if you will.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just ended up working for the guys. It was great for balancing the road life, because last summer we were doing like a lot of Northeast gigs,
Right.
New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York. So I would go live in my boat like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday usually, or like Sunday to Wednesday, Sunday to Thursday. And then I'd get on the road with the guys on the weekend. And then when I went back to Provincetown to be back in the boat, I'd either street perform or I'd ride this little tricycle around with a back seat on it, just picking up tourists and giving them rides around town,
Mhm.
drinking coffee and riding in circles, basically.
Yeah, it looked like that was
Not a
fun.
bad gig, I was in great shape when I was doing that. I was
Oh,
getting tons of exercise and tons of sun.
Yeah.
Had a really good tan and felt really healthy for a while.
Yeah. All right, well, let's switch gears.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears just a little bit, and let's talk about the band. You're currently
Sure.
in Florida on tour. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we
So-
played Jacksonville last night.
Rich, though, before we get into that, when did you first pick up a guitar? Do you remember? I know you said your
Ooh,
parents.
No, I do. Yeah, it was the summer between 4th and 5th grade. So however old you are then,
Okay.
Wow,
I
that's
guess
like
that
9,
makes you
10.
like 12 or
Yeah,
something.
10 to 12.
And so
Something like that. Yeah.
how many
11.
instruments can you play then? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, guitar and banjo are the only two I think I'm like really fluent in.
Okay.
The last 2 winters when I was down in Key West, when there wasn't any work for the band, I played a bunch of upright bass, which was awesome.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of getting on that, but it's mostly guitar, banjo, the upright. I love the piano and I mess around with it, but I would never say I can play it. I know like 4 songs on it. But I just think it's a beautiful, expressive instrument. That's really it. I can't play the drums to save my life.
Do you think your
Um,
parents, you
Mostly
learned,
those 3, I suppose.
do you think you, Rich, you learned more from your parents musically? Like, they obviously were an influence. Did you,
Oh, yeah.
so did you ever go up to your dad and
Um,
be like, how do I play this song? Or,
Not so much song specific, but like I grew up with music so prevalent in the household that one of my dad's favorite stories is like when I was like probably, just some little kid, probably like 4 or 5 or something. I was asking him like, "What does Uncle Jim play?" And he was just like, "Oh, he doesn't play anything." And my brain could not process that. I was like, "What do you mean? Like you guys all play something? What does he play?" Had to say it over and over again. I was just like, I don't get it, dude.
Right.
Like, you're telling me he doesn't play an instrument? What kind of human is this?
Right.
So like, as far as like this just being totally normal and something everybody does, like 100% on them. And I'll definitely remember that summer day where I went up to my dad's bedroom and he's like restringing his guitar or something. And I was like I want to learn how to play that. Can you show me some stuff? And he showed me and my sister like some chords and some really simple scales. And took songs we were familiar with. He's like, all right, like these 3 chords is like Wild Thing. You make my heart sing. Stuff like that. And he turned me on to like the guitarist he was working with. I took a couple lessons from that guy. He showed me like my first 2 Led Zeppelin riffs, which were like Black Dog and like Heartbreaker. I was like a little kid with my little electric guitar, like jamming Jimi Hendrix and Metallica and
Funny.
Zeppelin and stuff. But I feel like I'm going off on a tangent here.
No, you're good. That's why we got you on.
Didn't learn a ton of specifics from them, but it's been really interesting to see how like my father and I learning things in our own, and then when we get together to visit, like we're definitely influencing each other. Like, he's picked up some really neat things or little tricks, and I have too, and we share a lot of those now. But I think that's more now than like back then. I was kind of just getting my feet under me and learning how to keep time and stuff like that,
Sure. Well, you're listening to the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast. We're on now with fellas Bartok guitarist Rich Hennessy, and we're gonna switch it up right now a little bit, Rich, and talk to you about the band. You're currently you're in Jacksonville, is that right?
Yeah, we're in Jacksonville right now. We played last night at the 1904 Music Hall.
Wow.
How did that go?
Tonight, what's that?
How was that show?
It was fun. We're still working on our market down here. But we actually played with another band that shares a manager with us. They were Underground Springhouse. They were really cool, really nice guys, real good band. Between the 2 of us, like we brought a good amount of people in there. But it was one of those shows where it was like, okay, kind of a thin crowd, but like these people are into it, like they are ready to go, and we had a lot of fun.
Good.
Last night was cool.
And tonight you're where?
We're down in Sanford tonight. We're going to West End Trading down there, and we got some friends down that way, so I'm excited for that one.
Rich, how long have you been in the band, and did you have to try out for the band?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I played the summer of 2019. The guitarist they were working with at the time was going to do like some workshops or something or visit family. I'm not exactly sure what. I want to say he went to the DR, Dominican Republic, but for like a month at a time. So in the summer of 2019, I spent 2 separate months just like touring with the guys, a lot of Midwest, a lot of Northeast stuff. Down to like, I want to say we might have done some Virginia or West Virginia in that time. And we had a lot of fun. So that was summer 2019, January of 2020. So I kind of felt like sort of like that was a tryout, sort of an audition, but like nobody really specifically said like, this is your audition time. And then like, they asked me to join the band in January of 2020.
Nice.
And at that point, it was definitely clear, like, all right, like we want you to be like an actual member of this band. Like, let's see how it goes for these few months. So I was under the impression like this is totally a tryout. Like I'm not here yet.
Yeah.
Like, they obviously want me, and it seems to be working. But that was January 2020. So we played for like 2.5 months, and then everything stopped. So I had these, 10 weeks of my life where I was like, yes, like I'm finally in a cool band. We're playing all the time. And I'm like, no one's getting rich, but I can survive doing this. And like, this is one of those dreams I've been chasing, And then it all just came to a screeching halt.
Because of COVID.
And it was funny because it was actually while we were reflecting and talking about what's next that I had found out like there was sort of a miscommunication or like, certain members weren't really on the same page. But, Asher, the lead singer, was like, dude, you're in the band. Like, I don't want you to feel like we're still like thinking about it and you're like in some kind of like audition right now. So it's funny. Like I thought I was, and maybe for some people I was, but for the guy that kind of gets to call the shots at the end of the day, he was like, you're in. Like we're good. And I was like, awesome. But I guess we can't work anymore.
Right.
Right.
Until I don't know, whatever it was. I guess the next summer things started to kind of come together. So yeah, there was sort of an audition, but it was like kind of I don't know. It's kind of confusing, I guess.
So, Rich, do you? I mean, I don't want to. If you don't want to answer it, that's fine. But I mean, are you? Some bands can function. I was just looking up the top bands in America. I think last night, revenue producing bands, and like the Foo Fighters are going to make 1.2 million a show, right? So, like for your size of band, are you able to do it full time and that be your full time job?
Yeah. So it's funny. It's a funny time to ask because, having the markets we do down here, we're not making a whole lot of money on this run right now. So like if I looked at this week and last week, I would be like, absolutely not. This is not working. But 2 weeks ago, we had some really good paying gigs. And at the end of this month, we got some good ones. So you can definitely make it work doing just this. The guys in the band that are a little more, comfortable financially, have side gigs. So like Crisco, our drummer, he teaches lessons, right?
He what? Say that again.
So like if we're on the road and he can't get in the studio, he can do his lessons on the phone, I'm looking forward to when it gets warmer out so I can go do the pedicab thing and street performing, between gigs. But like if I don't spend any money and just use my food stamps and use the money we're making to pay my bills, like you can make it work.
Yeah.
It's just and there are certain months like we have had months where it's like, if every month was like this, like I wouldn't even need a second job. Like this is great. So it's kind of ups and downs, and I've been learning how to navigate that because I've never really been as farsighted with my bank accounts as I should be.
How many band members are there total? Because when I look at the band on YouTube, and it seems like there's a lot of band members. I mean, it sounds great. It seems like it's it's like a orchestra type thing. You guys got a lot of big sound and different instruments, and it's unique. So how many band members are there total?
So with a full lineup, there's 8 of us.
Okay.
We're currently down a horn section. One guy went back to school. One guy's down in New Orleans. I'm kind of hoping we can kidnap him when we go down there next month and get him back with us. But so it's currently 6, usually 8, and then you got like your booking agent, your manager.
Are you going to be auditioning a new horn player then, or are you just going to hope that one of them comes back?
We're still kind of unclear about what we're going to do with that because we all really miss the horns. But like since we've been without them, Alex on the accordion and the synthesizer and the keys, and then me on the guitar have been like taking over a lot of those horn lines.
Okay.
And it was funny because I was kind of already thinking this, but Asher said it the other night. He's like, I really like this one song. How you doing that lead on the electric guitar? Like, I miss the horns, but what did he say? He said something like, it sounds kind of like Redneck Queen, and I love it. I was like, that's really funny because this one tone I got from this guy's amp, he was backlining the amp, and I've got like a new distortion pedal I'm experimenting with. Like, that's really funny because I heard those tones, and I was like, that's the Queen tone.
Yeah.
So like, it's been a learning experience, and there's some parts where you're just like, dang, like I really miss those big horns, but we're adapting and it's changing the music and that's exciting too, it's like kind of a little more like rock and roll, a little more like just a little edgier kind of. So it's hard to say, we're kind of still figuring out, what's going on with all that. I'm sure if somebody showed up with a trumpet and a trombone and just were like, we're down to get in the band, I would find it hard to imagine we'd turn them away. But
David just took up horn playing.
Still kind of finding the direction with this one.
What's the band's mindset on touring, Rich? I noticed that you guys have got shows booked through the end of March. While you guys are on this tour, are you looking ahead to April, May, June, or is that like you're going to take a month off, or what's the mindset on touring?
I mean, these guys definitely all love, as do I just love being on the road. Because you just see the craziest stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like even just hanging out in Jacksonville on the side of the street, like outside the venue last night, like some wild stuff goes down that typically very entertaining and not the kind of stuff you're going to see hanging around Western Mass, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like everybody, as long as things are working out, like as long as we've got decent places to sleep and, you know, we're making enough money to get by, I don't think there's anybody that would prefer to be home.
Right.
You
Okay.
know?
Okay. So I noticed that you're making a quick trip back to New Orleans. You guys were just in New Orleans and now you're going to go back to New Orleans. Is there something that went well enough the first time to get you guys back down to New Orleans this quick?
I'm sorry, I just missed that last part. What
No,
did you,
is
what was
there
that
is there something that went right in your first trip to New Orleans that's making you guys go back to New Orleans this fast?
Oh man, everybody in the band left New Orleans.
Okay.
I think that's the only time in the few years I've been with them. I think that's the only time I've gone somewhere where everybody in the band was like, "Can we just stay here?"
Okay.
Like, New Orleans is a beautiful city. There's just amazing music everywhere. Tons of like-minded folks. That was on Halloween too, so it was starting to get chilly up north, and it was just gorgeous weather down there. And you know, our trombone player's down there. He's got a partner down there who's in a really cool band. They're called the Pastel Panties.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we paired up with them. We're gonna pair up with them again on March 11th. It was just a really fun time. I think honestly, just the emotional fulfillment we got out of there is probably a big part of the reason we're going back.
Yeah.
And you know, we paired up well with the Panties. I think we got a lot of new fans out of that. So there's a few good reasons to go check it out again. Most of all, just because we really liked it, and it might actually make a little bit of sense for the band too.
Yeah. No, that makes. Yeah, I understand. So
Oh man,
the
love New Orleans.
the masquerade party in Detroit, is that your weirdest show of the year?
Oh, you must, yeah, Theater Bazaar, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, I actually said that was probably the most fun gig I've played. It was just the wildest, like, just totally different kind of performance. You know, it's 8 floors of a Masonic temple,
Mm-hmm.
and you wander around, and there's, you know, we had full body paint on that was like required as the show. You know, we're all
Right.
painted up like devils and got horns on our heads and stuff. And there's clowns, you know, there's sword swallowers, there's suspension artists. It's just a freaking freak show, dude. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
this feels like our vibe.
Right.
Like, we're very much like, be your weirdest self and be proud of it. And it was just like, I felt like we had found like our people at that show.
That's
It's so much fun. It's 2 nights.
That's the one show I can't bring myself
great
to
crowds.
go out to. Yeah.
Man, that's one that was my first time. I think the band might have been there 2 times before that.
Right.
But that was the kind of gig that I had like heard tale of Theater Bazaar like ever since I started playing in Bella's Bartok.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody showed me a picture of them all in their body paint, and I was just blown away. I was like, I want to do that. That
Yeah.
looks awesome. So when I finally get to do that this year, like, man, what a crazy time. That was so fun. That was I really would I would do that every year until I die if I could.
That's the one local show or local to me that I can't bring myself to come watch you guys at. I'm like, that just the weird. Just when I see people swinging on meat hooks, I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna pass.
That stuff. I've got mixed feelings on that. Actually, the opener. Well, I should say opener, but there's, you know, stuff going all night. But the guy on stage before us was a suspension artist, or the group actually, because there was 2 guys that put the hooks in their skin and their backs, and then they put a slack line on the hooks, and they walk away from each other until it's tight, and then somebody else lights it on fire and walks on it.
That's
Oh,
wild.
Jeez.
Yeah, it
No,
was the
thank you.
craziest shit I've ever seen. I was like,
Mm.
okay, oh, they're lighting it on fire now. Oh, he's gonna walk on it while it's on
Jeez.
fire. This is insane. Where do these people come from?
Yeah.
It's worse than Kiss, right? With
Oh my god,
with Gene Simmons
Or better,
blowing out
depending on what you're
flames out
into.
of his mouth.
Dude. Yeah, Theater Bazaar. I could talk about that forever, man. That was just wild time.
Well, you're listening to the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast. We've got Bella's Bartok guitarist Rich Hennessy on the line this morning with who we're talking to. Rich, are you guys already booked to go back to Theater Bazaar for this year?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm not super in touch with the booking side of things. That's kind of more on two other guys, and the agent, they all work together. We do have some exciting things coming up in April that aren't announced yet, but I'm assuming they will be soon. But yeah, I don't know much about Theater Bazaar next fall, actually.
Right. Okay, that's fine. I'm gonna try to come see you somewhere. I'm not sure yet whether it's gonna be Columbus, Akron, Detroit, or Grand Rapids or something.
Yeah, I don't know
I'll try to
what
get
we're
out.
doing close to you next. I know we've got like Columbus and Akron and Detroit in the beginning of March.
Right.
Columbus isn't far away.
But that's
pretty
a
close.
school night. It's a
Oh, is it?
Thursday. So
Yeah, that's tough.
Columbus is a Thursday. Yeah.
St.
I
Patty's
don't
Day
remember,
in
Dave. Where did we see you last?
Cincinnati.
Some brewery.
Cincinnati.
What was it?
Yeah. Cincinnati.
Yeah.
The Natty,
That
yep.
was a cool little joint.
Yeah. The crowd. So we had made.
That was kind of weird.
Yeah. My wife and I had made different plans for after the show, just as a precautionary measure. There was this jazz club that's in Cincinnati that was freaking phenomenal. And so
Nice.
after you guys played, we had, and I'm glad we had other plans. The crowd kind of went weird on us. We're like, let's go.
Yeah, it was definitely
So-
the other band's crowd. I remember that now.
Yeah. So it was fun. And we're going to, I'll at least try to get to you guys before Morgantown. Morgantown looks like it would be a good show. And that's where Caitlin and Steven live, and they show up all the time to see you guys too. So, but yeah,
that should be fun. I
Yeah.
like West Virginia. What a beautiful state.
oh man, that's the first. I think that's the first time I met you was one of your shows in 2019 in West Virginia. And,
Oh, yeah, at what's that little joint called?
the Purple Fiddle.
Purple Fiddle,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, definitely. You were
You
walking.
guys came upstairs to the hostel and hung out with us up there, right?
Yeah, we always try to bring food, and it doesn't seem like we're
I
allowed.
remember that. I had
Yeah.
just joined the band,
Yeah.
and people mentioned you guys were coming, but I hadn't met you yet. And then you guys walked in with like a bunch of beer and food, and I was just like,
Was that you and
who are
Johnny?
these angelic strangers that just want to like help us have a really good time?
It was actually
This is
Tim
awesome.
and I.
Oh, it was Timmy.
Mhm. Yeah, it was, and
Yeah, I was like,
it seems
man,
like the
is this what
the
it's like to play in a
hospital.
rock and roll band. This is sweet.
Yeah, it seems like the hostel is off limits anymore. They don't allow people to go up there now. Is that right? Or maybe
Yeah, I heard the same thing on our way down there last time we played, but then we ended up staying there.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if we had to rent it or if they just kind of like let us in as like one of the last ones because I remember we were talking about that. We were like, oh, I don't think we can stay there. I don't think we can stay there. And then we're driving to West Virginia, and I'm like, so where are we staying? They go, oh, the hostel. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not really sure about that. It's kind of that kind of stuff happens too. In a band of this size, like if you're not the direct contact, like working on where am I staying and talking with those people, it's so easy to just be like, oh, I don't know. I guess we're not doing that. And like, I'm not going to bug 5 people for the details to like make them explain it another time.
I get it.
There's so much stuff like that just kind of changes on the fly that I'm like, all right, like, you know what? I'm going to go back to like inventorying the merchandise or something. Like we all kind of have our jobs or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, I wish I could tell you more about that, but I really have no idea.
I will say,
honestly, not even sure where we're staying tonight.
Right. Wow. I will say, Rich, since you've joined the band, and I'm not just saying this to say this, it seems that in the time since you've been with the band has become more polished. And I don't know if we're using the word polished is the right word to use, but you guys seem to be just kind of more of a cohesive unit, and you sound absolutely phenomenal, or at least in my opinion, you guys sound awesome.
I'm sorry, you kind of cut out for that last
No,
part.
I'm just saying that
hear.
you guys, I mean, in your current format of the band, you guys sound like the best I've ever heard you guys sound in quite a while. And it just seems like there's a cohesiveness to the band that really hasn't been there in the past. Is that fair to make that assessment, or is...
so much of the way, in my experience, so much of the way a band sounds is, obviously like a huge part of it is, actually practicing on a regular schedule and everybody being really on top of their stuff. And, there's a lot on the individual and a lot on like the spending time, working on the material. But in my experience, I feel like so much of how a band sounds is a reflection of personal relationships and how everybody's feeling. And when I joined this band, I really learned a lot about communication and things like that, because I had played in some bands where like, things might upset people that they don't really feel like it's important to talk about, or like people might let stuff fester and like kind of bug them. And like if you get on stage with somebody and they're doing some trivial little thing that's been bothering you, but you don't think it's like big enough to bring up, like it's gonna bother you more and more and more. And like even if you think you're hiding it, like that energy is gonna come through somehow, right?
Right.
Like say like I played with these guys in Key West one winter, and one guy really didn't like this one song he hated it, but he never said anything about it. And then one day on stage he's like, I'm so sick of this song, right before he started, and he plays it and he's hitting all the notes, but you can tell like the energy is just not there.
Right.
And I kind of was like, hey, I work with these guys up north, and when these things happen we talk about them, and I think right now, like just the lineup we have, the people we're working with, and we had a check-in this past spring when I got back from Key West, and we were like, all right, now's the time to like get at it. We have these meetings where we check in and just talk about like, Asher couldn't say it enough. He's like, communication is paramount. Like if anything's happening, if anybody's feeling any kind of way, like this is a safe space. I want everyone to know that like all your opinions matter and you're all heard and everything. And I think we've been really putting a good amount of energy into just that culture of being like a family and being open with each other. And I really think that's coming through in the music, because you're not the first person to say that to us recently. Like we're just like, wow, you guys look like you're having so much fun and it sounds so good.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, like I think like just the fact that we're so happy with each other and nobody's got any harbored emotions or anything like that, like I think it's just really coming through.
Yeah. There was, I mean, one of the times that you guys came through with one of the older lineups, you guys were in Muncie, and two of the band members just kind of seemed at one another, and I'm like, why the fuck am I standing here listening to these two kind of bicker back and forth? It was just like, seriously? And I know it's probably difficult to be around
affects
people.
Everyone, you guys in the audience pick up on it.
Yeah.
We're on stage like, oh, I wish these guys could have figured that out at the gas station bathroom 4 days ago, or something like.
Right.
And then it's like I remember two guys when I was working as a substitute. Like somebody wasn't having a good time, and something was said right before we did the song. Hey, I'll never forget playing "Say No," and it's already a fast song and it's already a hard song, but it felt like everybody just played it harder and faster.
Right.
Like this isn't like a good hard and fast. This is like we're like hate screwing this song right now.
Right.
This is not it.
There you go. There you go.
And people pick up on that. You might not pick up on like, oh, this is why this doesn't sound as happy. Like you might not even put your finger on it, but you're gonna notice it.
Sure. All right. Well, Rich, we greatly appreciate your time this morning. We're gonna
appreciate you guys having me on, man.
Yeah, and if Tony and I are ever in Florida, can we get a boat ride? Would that be cool?
Oh man, well the boat's up in Provincetown, Mass right now.
All right.
So like festival season, like May, June, I'll be up there during the week. Give me a call. You got my number.
Yeah, I do. All
hey,
right,
Rich.
Go. Sorry, Tony.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
Hey, Rich, before we go here,
Sure.
tell us how people can find Bella's Bartok information, concert tours, and all that. And do you have a personal page or social media site?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So Bella's is on all the social stuff: Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, Apple Music. You just look up Bella's BELLA''S, and then Bartok is BARTOK, like Bela Bartok, but Bella's. Yeah, find us on all the streaming stuff: Instagram, Facebook, whatever. I think we have a TikTok now, even for the kids. I guess that's what the kids are doing now.
For the kids, yeah.
And then, if you want to follow any of my personal shenanigans, I'm always on Instagram. It's Hennessy_Rich. Hennessy spelled just like the booze. And then actually I've got a page for the sailing stuff. It's called The Dirty Little Boat.
Okay.
And that's on Instagram as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, lots of crossover, obviously, between the band page and the personal stuff, but it's all fun. It's all entertaining. And if I ever end up sailing the coast again, that's where I'll be looking for a crew on Instagram stories. So if you guys want to come spend a month offshore with me,
that'd be a lot of
it
fun.
might be sometime again in the future.
Yeah.
Right.
And I figure the touring's a young man's game. The sailing I can do when I'm older, but
There you go.
it'll be back.
Can we have you back on the show sometime, Rich? Maybe before the end of the year? Would that be something you'd be interested in?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Awesome. And if you would share this with the guys, have the guys listen or whatever. The name of the podcast is
course.
Ship's Gonna Happen.
Yeah, David will send you a link, right?
Yeah. I'll send you a link. So, but
Cool.
we greatly appreciate your time this morning, and we wish you guys the best on the road. And you'll see me at some point on the road. I'm just not sure when.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome to talk to you this morning, Rich.
Man.
Absolutely, Rich. You are a class act, man. This was a great interview and appreciate your time.
Dude, thank you guys so much. It's been a blast. It's been real nice catching up and talking with you both.
Yeah, you're awesome. All right. Take care,
Have
Rich.
a great weekend.
All right. You too.
Thank you, Rich.
Bye, guys.
Yep. Fellas, Bartok,
Awesome.
Rich Hennessy.
There we go.
All right, David. Hey, you're listening to Ship's Gonna Happen. We are out.